Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. I'm very excited for this next video. I've been wanting to do this for a little while now. I'm going to say how I see Poland after living in Sweden for over 6 years and originally being from the United States. So this video is going to be intended for a Polish audience and a Swedish audience. I'm going to talk about things I like about both countries, but in order to do this, we're going to have to do a deep dive into history and have to talk about some difficult historical topics. So if you love history, buckle up. Also, all this is going to be done through my own opinions, which means not everything is going to be maybe 100% correct because some of it is going to be my views. So if you agree with me or disagree with me, you're welcome to put that into the comments. I just hope we can keep it civilized. And with that being said, let's get into it. I have now been to Poland twice. I've been to Poland about a couple years ago. I went to Warsaw for a week and visited that city. And I just got back from a trip about a month ago from Gdansk, Poland. And I've been living in Sweden for 6 years, originally coming from the United States. And one thing that's very clear is when you look at lists of quality of life and how Sweden is always one of the top countries in quality of life, we have to also look at the history of why Sweden is there. But we also have to be fair to how wonderful and awesome Poland is and how far that Poland has come. So going into it, the two things that really strike me visiting Poland, number one is how friendly the people are. I mean, Poland has some of the most welcoming people I've ever experienced. Very friendly, very willing to help you. I think they have a great philosophy on life. I feel that they're very happy people. You know, they've been through a lot in their history. It's interesting when you live in Sweden, because I'm from the United States, but I originally was very open, but after living in Sweden for over 6 years, I'm more of a reserved person myself. I've actually gone through that little bit of a cultural shift or difference. So Swedish people are very friendly and will help you. We're just a little bit more shy to get the conversation started. And that's one thing that I found very interesting. Number two, that I think is one of the other positive things that really hits me about Poland is extremely safe. I've been to Warsaw, I've been to the Praga area of Warsaw, which is considered to be the dangerous area of Poland, and it didn't feel dangerous at all. Gdansk was an amazingly safe city. I felt safe everywhere, and I was in many different parts of it. And I think you could make an argument that Poland is just as safe, if not more safe, than Sweden in some of the cities. You could compare like a Stockholm to a Warsaw, for example, and I think you would see that the Polish city could rival it as far as safety goes. I also have to say this, what really surprises me as well, is that the quality of life in Poland seems to be quite high. When you compare it to even countries like the United States, where they actually have pretty decent parental leave, they have universal health care, good benefits when it comes to education. Before coming to Poland, I guess I kind of had a thought that Poland was a more of a poor country, which I guess compared to Swedish standards it is. And I also have to point out that when you're in the major city areas, you're also seeing the most posh areas of any city that you go to. But I will talk about some differences that I noticed between Sweden and Poland, but then we're going to do this deep dive into history to explain how impressive Poland really is as a country and how excited I am for Poland to just continue to grow and expand. A couple of differences I noticed as far as going is obviously if you're from Sweden, you can see that your money goes a lot farther. So it's fair to say that if you are in Sweden and you have a decent income, you are going to feel a little bit richer in Poland. And it seems that Polish people are able to afford most things. I actually looked at recent statistical data that suggested that about 20% of people in Poland are at risk for poverty. It doesn't mean that they are on the poverty level. It just means they're at risk, like losing a job, when maybe they're living paycheck to paycheck. But overall, my interpretation of people in Poland is they were living pretty decently comfortable. Another thing I will say about Poland that I noticed that maybe not a lot of people notice is I have asthma too. It might be because of that. But both times I've been in Poland, I noticed a difference in air quality. I could feel that the air quality in Sweden was much higher as far as like quality than it was in Poland. Not that it was bad, it was just a difference. It might be that I could smell factory in the distance or something like that. It was just something that I picked out. So it's obvious if you compare Sweden to Poland, you can see that Sweden has a little bit more better benefits, which is probably why a decent amount of people do travel to Sweden from Poland. Poland is a little bit more of a more religious country than Sweden for sure. So they have more harsh abortion laws, and it took a little bit longer for gay rights kind of to be accepted that in Poland. But with all that said, the thing that amazes me the most, and I recommend this so much if you go to Poland, especially if you're in Gdansk, is going to the World War II museum. Because no country, and we got to talk about World War II for a second, because if we're going to talk about how high the quality of life is in Sweden, we got to do kind of a deep dive of what happened here in World War II. And I think you can make a pretty positive argument that no country got hit as hard as Poland did during the war. I mean, to be invaded by Germany first, and to have multiple uprisings, to have so many of your people killed, and if you just look at Poland, it was always kind of in the middle of conflicts even before World War II, trying to get some power and independence, really. And especially thinking about one of the uprisings in Warsaw, and one of the things that really shocked me, even being in Warsaw and in Gdansk, is a lot of these old cities, these old towns had to be completely rebuilt because they were just bombed to hell. And when one of the Warsaw uprisings were happening, the Russians were just sitting across the bridge, just waiting for the Germans to leave and the Polish to get a little bit beat up and just to move in. So not only did Poland fight the Germans off, but then they were then taken over by Russia. And if you could imagine, that means that Poland's resources, their economic situations were controlled by two different countries for many years. And then to be able to leave all that and to have a country of people that have a very positive outlook on the world. They don't talk a lot about the past. I noticed that. I think it does hit really deep with them. But what I love about the Polish people and the country, and I think why they're so successful, is they don't make excuses. They talk about their old history, but they've just constantly rebuilt themselves. The economy there is growing. The cities are growing, and I just see nothing but a bright future for Poland. I think that Poland can be one of the top countries within the EU, and I think it's very impressive how fast they've grown. I love the country. I love the people. That being said, we got to talk about Sweden during World War II, because it's very easy to sit here and I see all these lists of Sweden having a very high quality of life, and it's the same like with the United States after World War II as far as the benefits that we had being in the war and not getting hit as hard. If you look at Sweden during World War II, Sweden was a neutral country. And I say that because Sweden kind of played both sides. They didn't necessarily have this big massive army, but Sweden allowed the Germans pretty much to move freely through the country. Although there were some people that sympathized with the Nazis, there were also people that sympathized with the Allies as well. And one of the major things that Sweden had was natural resources such as iron that was used for weapons. Sweden is rich in natural resources. And so Sweden was trading very heavily with the Germans iron, and they were very dependent on it. But at the same time, Sweden was also trading intelligence with the British, and Sweden was also assisting Finland a little bit fighting the Russians. So Sweden was kind of playing all these different sides, kind of trying to keep everybody happy. Besides a few accidental bombings, Sweden wasn't really hit so hard by the war. And you figure just doing this rich trade with these other countries allowed Sweden's economy to stay intact. It allowed it to grow more and more. And then after the war hit, Sweden really hit this economic boom. It really kind of pushed Sweden from being like a farmer country into more of an industrialized nation. And you cannot deny the fact that to be able to make the money that Sweden made during the war and not get bombed and not have to rebuild like that allowed Sweden to grow very fast into one of the most advanced countries, one of the most strong countries with GDP, and just companies and building. I mean, it's just very, very impressive what Sweden was able to do. And you can see the same thing with the United States. The United States had that same advantage because the United States wasn't getting bombed, wasn't getting hurt. And if you just compare, Sweden to like Norway, Denmark, and Finland, they weren't getting hit that hard. Sweden doesn't like to talk about this so much. I mean, I'm not saying they don't talk about it. It's just like I didn't learn a lot about this in history as far as being neutral. And I just think it's fair to say when you compare Sweden to other countries, you can't not deny the fact that what happened during the war really affected the countries to this day. So I think it's awesome what both countries have really done, and I think it's important to realize that when we look at how high the quality of life is in Sweden, we can't deny the history behind it and why. So this has been completely my interpretation of it. I find both countries to be extremely fascinating. I think we can learn a lot from both. I think the Polish attitude is just fantastic and very, very inspiring. And this has been my interpretation on it, and I just want to hear what you guys think. Please feel free to put that in the comments below. I'm sure I missed some things, but I was excited about this. And if you like this kind of content, guys, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hej då!